Why, Colleen, not only in South Africa but in Zimbabwe as well, as I've outlined, does a trend like this perpetuate?
Well, as you know, Jeremy, it's a man's world, unfortunately, here in Zimbabwe and everywhere else. And the one thing that outlives the leadership in Zimbabwe is patriarchy. So I suppose on the positive side, we actually have 4 women presidential candidates. That's never happened before. That's quite a record in and of itself. But if you look at the percentage of women who are running both in local government and in parliament, it's less than 15%, despite both the major parties having stated that they have, quotas for women. They simply haven't met them.
So how do you put some sort of reverse on a trend like this to change the patriarchal dynamic that you refer to?
Well, Zimbabwe's constitution actually has a 30% quota for women in parliament. So 30% of the seats in parliament are reserved for women on a PR basis, which is why in parliament at the present time you have slightly over 30% women, those who came in on the quota and those who came in by contesting in the, in the constituency seats. Unfortunately, that quota is expiring in 2023, so this is the last year that we have that. And also, it doesn't extend to the local level, which is a bit, it doesn't actually make sense because Article 17 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe talks about gender parity in all areas. So the campaign by women's rights activists has been for an extension of this quota after 2023, as well as its extension to the local level. We don't know whether either of those will happen, but I believe that these elections will be a wake-up call because definitely there will be a drop in women's representation. The numbers tell us that. But in addition, we've seen a high degree of sexism and misogyny in the campaign, bringing out all these, unresolved issues that Zimbabwe still has to grapple with.
The numbers, of course, tell a slightly better story in South Africa, don't they?
Indeed. Well, South Africa has a PR system, which, of course, is more inclusive, and it's globally, it is a better system for women's representation because, in essence, you vote for a party rather than for an individual. So it's less cutthroat than the first-past-the-post system. And, coupled with that, you've had the ANC and progressive parties having their own voluntary party quotas, which is always a better route to go than legislated quotas, because if the parties own the quotas, then they champion them and they make sure that women get into leadership positions and that it becomes normal. They normalize the idea of women in leadership. So, South Africa obviously has come quite a long way with a few ups and downs over the last, 20, 25 years of our democracy. But Zimbabwe's electoral system is not conducive, and its quota, its legislated quota, is half-hearted. And the space has simply not been welcoming for women in politics. I mean, we have respected politicians like Thokozile Kupe and so forth being referred to as prostitutes, and issues about whether or not politicians are married or not, and, things that are totally irrelevant to their competence as leaders being raised during this election.
Colleen.